U.S. government agencies continue to look for ways to better protect themselves against cyber attacks. To talk about this topic, we have two experts from HID Global, a provider of secure identity solutions. Bob DeLude is the Director of Federal Identity Initiatives, and Yves Massar is Director of Product Line Management with a special focus on government. I want to thank everyone for being on this podcast, deploying multi-factor authentication in the U.S. federal government. Let's jump right in. There are many stories in the news about companies having their data compromised by a third party, hacking their system. This is concerning, especially as companies that hold our financial payment information are hacked. But should we have the same level of concern when our government computers are hacked?
That's exactly right. OPM data lost included names, addresses, date of birth, other personal information, and most of all, in terms of security, fingerprints, which makes all of our secret agents now able to be identified from their fingerprints. So it's a very important topic.
And the U.S. government jumped into action right away. They responded with a 30-day cyber sprint to identify critical issues and remediate as many as they could. The outcome of it was that they increased the use of two-factor authentication from 42% to 72% across the U.S. government, which is a great improvement, but obviously there's a lot more that needs to be done.
What are ways that government computers can actually be hacked?
It's essentially the same risk as what you would find for the financial industry or general commercial businesses. Things like attacks with denial of service, phishing, zero-day vulnerability, all the gamuts of attacks that you would see for all different actors in the industry.
And here's the big question. How does one protect against these attacks?
It's all about controlling access to the network, which requires strong multi-factor authentication. Authentication is proving you are who you claim to be when you present something to get into some access-controlled resource. And the authentication factors are something you have, you can use those, something you know, something you are, or some combination of all three.
Let's talk about requirements. What is required by a government agency to use two-factor authentication?
Well, this is the good news for the government because they already possess the personal identity verification card or the PIV card, which can be used for either two- or three-factor authentication.
And there's 5.5 million federal employee and contractor that currently have a valid PIV card that can be used for physical access, visual authentication, as well as logical access when accessing networks and cloud applications.
Let me ask you this. How does the PIV credential enable two-factor authentication?
When a user uses his PIV card to authenticate, the user must be in possession of his PIV card as well as the PIN code that protects the PIN card. Essentially, the user types the PIN code and the PIV card is like a miniaturized computer. And if the user enters the incorrect PIN code too many times, the PIV card will lock itself and prevent hackers from being able to use it. And the PIV card is thus much more secure than a password because there's no password exchange between the user laptop or desktop and the server. Instead, there is a cryptographic data that is exchanged to prove that the user is in possession of a valid PIV card.
There might be some people out there that are a little skeptical, but is two-factor authentication really the panacea that you're describing here?
It's the best technology available today. It's already been noted that two-factor authentication would have prevented 52% of the reported cyber incidents last year.
And 2FA is not a magic bullet. It still requires best practice in terms of security. Essentially, it's just like when you lock your front door, you don't leave the windows open next to it. But however, 2FA, two-factor authentication, is a critical component of a well-secured IT environment.
I'm going to put you on the spot. In your opinion, why haven't 100% of government agencies adopted this multi-factor authentication?
So there are several contributors to that. The federal government is very large. It's distributed. It's federated, meaning many different agencies will have to interoperate, and has thousands of locations. Making any kind of deployment for access control that's usable across the government is complex. It'll take a while, and it is expensive.
And in addition, the authentication mandate was not funded, and thus it was competing for resources against other funded mandates. Finally, not everybody is eligible for a PIF card, but still need two-factor authentication. This includes foreign nationals, some categories of contractors, and some additional identities.
If a U.S. government agency says to themselves, yes, we have to do this, what can agencies actually do to deploy this type of authentication you're talking about?
Well, they can start by deploying PIV middleware on all laptop and desktop workstations that have to connect to the network. They can review the specifications of the hardware and software components, the systems, the applications of your IT environment. They can identify which ones can be upgraded and configured to leverage PKI-based authentication provided by the PIV card.
And then organization may want to replace the component system and application which cannot be updated to leverage PKI-based authentication with updated applications that are PKI-enabled. Also, organization may want to look into optimizing the user experience by deploying an OCSP solution which provide online certificate status validation, which essentially speeds up the login process, especially in a largely distributed environment that's also federated.
And I want to ask you a bit of a complex question, so if you can follow along with me on this. What can agencies do when they've deployed PIV credentials to all eligible personnel, but they have systems or applications that cannot leverage a PIV card for strong authentication?
For legacy applications that cannot be PIV or PKI enabled or replaced at an acceptable cost, the organization has the option to consider deploying a one-time password approach that's based on strong authentication solutions.
An organization may want to look into FIPS 140 certified one-time password hardware token so that they can still reach a NIST level of assurance 3, which provide them a similar level of security or closely enough level of security as what they would get with the PIV card.
And I want to continue along this line of discussion around PIV credentials, but say an agency, they have some users that are not eligible for a PIV credential, such as some contractors or partners or users awaiting a card issuance. What options do those agencies have?
So the government's already provided a second option called a PIV interoperable or PIV-I credential. It's issued to non-government employees that need to be trusted by the federal government. An additional option would be to generate your in-house credential solution using a CIV credential, which is a commercial identity verification credential, and that could be used just internally. It wouldn't be used across multiple agencies.
And if those users are not expected to interact with other agencies, you might want to look into CIV because it's much less expensive than PIV-I. However, if your users are expected to be trusted by other organizations from one department to another or one agency to the other, then PIV-I will be your better solution.
I have one final question, and I appreciate your time on this. What can agencies do when they have some users with multiple accounts and that cannot use their PIV card across accounts? What do you say to that?
Well, first of all, it's important to understand that the privilege to use to gain access to multiple accounts is not the same as the identity used to prove who you are or claim to be. So you could use a different solution, such as a PIV card or CIV credentials, again, in these different accounts. But I would recommend looking to see why you could not use your PIV card for those multiple access control systems.
And alternatively, you may also want to consider a one-time password strong authentication solution, which may work better with older legacy applications.
This has been great conversation, very relevant information for U.S. government agencies. For more information about multi-factor authentication solutions for the government, go to hidglobal.com. We appreciate your time, Bob and Eve. Thank you, and thanks everyone listening.